Hi friends, it's TepacheLoco here with another modding guide, this time talking about map tools and how we set them up and how we make them appear. What do I mean when I'm talking about map tools? I'm talking about this big protractor, and I'm talking about your compass. So if you're making something like a faction mod, this can be a really nice simple way to add some good personality to your faction and make it feel different from the vanilla factions in the game. Okay, let's start off by looking at the compass. The compass, as you're probably well aware, is an item that you can pick up and hold in the world. And actually, as far as the version of the one that appears on the map, it's basically the same prefab with some slight differences. So here's one that we've made for British Forces mod. We use the same procedural animation component that's on the vanilla compasses. That's how it decides to spin around the dial, so it's always pointing north with some nice physics attributes applied to it. How do we turn that into the one that shows up on the map? Here we have the vanilla compass for the Soviet faction. If we go down to SCR compass component, you will see here that there is a map camera position and a map resource. Map camera position basically means when it is shown up on the map, where is the center point of where it appears. Map resource is the important one, which is what is the version of this prefab that is shown when you open it on the map. What things might be different about it? Well, we can just place that prefab and take a look at them. Go over to Compass Adrianov Map, and then we'll turn on Show Only Modified Properties and turn off Hierarchy. So this shows you every property that's been changed on this child prefab. What's changed here? First thing here is Action Manager component. So this is interactions you can have with the compass. Because you're on the map, presumably you shouldn't be interacting with it beyond the existing controls within the map view. So this is just, this whole component is disabled. Second piece here is the procedural animation component. And what's changed here is simulation distance. So my understanding of how this works is it's for performance reasons. If you have your compass open and I'm 25 meters away, obviously I don't need to see your compass spinning around. Now, what simulation distance being set to 0 here does is it totally disables that system, so it always is animating wherever it's visible, no matter what the distance. Because you're on the map and the compass shows up, you're the only person seeing it, so you're the only person with a performance hit, and you should always see it update. So setting this to 0 just says always show the animation of it. So there we go, that is the compass done. Now, the next piece is that protractor, ruler, whatever you want to call it, and that works slightly differently. That's actually just a flat 2D texture. The way that's set up is actually on the map itself. So you don't have a map tools inventory item that you carry and take with you. It's if you have the USSR map, you get the USSR protractor. How is that set up? Let's have a look at our paper map folder on USSR, SCR map gadget component. And what you can see in here, all sorts of stuff. Protractor texture and ruler length are two values here. Protractor's texture here is what is being shown as a protractor, and ruler length is how long should the ruler on that be. If you're using it to measure distance, it should be a fixed size, right? Let's open up this texture file and take a look at it. Delightful little bit of graphic design here from Bohemia. What you can see here is a texture that probably has an alpha channel on it, right? Like you can see through this when it's on the map. Of course, to make this work properly, you want to see the alpha texture as well, which go on the channels here and we'll turn on alpha. And you can see here they've made sure that the measurements are nice and clear by giving them full opacity, and they've given the background this sort of slightly cloudy texture, so you get that sense of a slightly dinged up old plastic compass that you've been given. Really important piece here. The middle of this texture is what the center of rotation will be on your protractor in the game. This is something we'll get to in the protractor that I made and something I had to do to work around that. That's all to say, do what they did. Again, looking at the US example here, lovely little distance measurements, got their degrees, got their angles, their alpha channel, done nice little things here, like they've rounded off the corners of this slightly so it isn't quite so sharp. And again, very center of the texture here is where the rotation will happen. I want to make my own version of that. And here's the one I made earlier. What I did here is I actually purchased a British Army protractor and I basically processed that into a nice texture. I think I even stuck it in my scanner, if I remember right, rather than taking a picture. I then looked at overlaying some different effects on it. So I did a slightly blurry version of it, so you get that slightly faded ink effect. I put a color overlay on it because I found that made it look more like that sort of classic blued, cheap plastic sort of look. A bit of clouds again to get a bit more variety, like those examples we saw in the vanilla ones. And there we go. We have this, and as you can see here, I've made some guides to help set up where the center of this is where I want it to rotate around. If I had originally set it up so it was centered on this piece, then you would see it rotating around the very center, and that wouldn't look correct, right? That wouldn't be where you would rotate this protractor to make a measurement. The other thing I did that actually we end up making a creative decision on is there's a lot of different measurements on this protractor. There's scales like 1 in 25,000, 1 in 50,000, etc. And they really got in the way of the core things you're meant to do with this protractor in game, which is measuring hundreds of meters, kilometers, and measuring degrees. So we made an alternative version where we actually removed a lot of those different distance measurements. We also had a little bit of fun, right? Like we branded this as our own little thing. Delightful, little bit of Midlands rep going on there. And then as you might have seen a little sneak of earlier, we also made the alpha channel for this. Again, going in and just making those little modifications of inverting the colors, again, bringing in some of that cloudiness, highlighting some of those little scratches and things, just giving it that lovely little texture of alpha channel. We then duplicated that, flattened it, and then put it on the alpha channel for the texture, export this out as a TGA, import it into the game, and then we have our texture for our protractor right here. Okay, wonderful. And then finally, how do we set this up? Like we were saying, we go in here and we set up protractor texture, change it over to the one that we set up. So here's the American example, and I think over here is the British example. Last piece here is ruler length. What this corresponds to is on your texture, there's going to be a measurement that is 1 kilometer's distance, hopefully. And then take this measurement and measure how long it is in pixels, in this case about 2,158, and you tell the game engine 2,158 pixels should correlate to 1 kilometer's distance. It'll scale the protractor properly to give you that distance on the map, okay? Finally, you've set all that up, you've given your character prefabs that version of the map, and then when you go in game, you'll be able to place down one of your characters and give it a try. Let's go in with a UK character from British Forces mod, available now. Make Arma Reforger finalist. Please give us a like, a subscribe, whatever you want to call it. We've got the map open and we've got our compass. So let's make that a bit bigger. And we've got our map tool. Again here, right, you could see that compass came in as tiny and we can resize it. Whereas this protractor is the size that it is, right? So if we go out to 1 kilometer, we give that a measure. There we go, we've got that 1 kilometer distance. You can give this a rotate and all that sort of stuff and have a wonderful time with it. Okay, folks, I hope you enjoyed that little guide and let me know what you make with it. Show me your map tools that you want to make and I'll see you in the next one.